Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So I believe a few videos back I've mentioned that I wanted to draw some Stardew Valley characters in my style, so that is what we are going to be doing today. I have I guess like A4 sized canvas just flipped to the side so we can kind of have a bigger canvas to work with so I can draw multiple characters. I don't feel super comfortable drawing the characters quite yet, so I'm going to be doing my best just to keep these more or less like sketches rather than actual full finished drawings. So I am going to attempt to draw, I think, about 5-ish characters today onto one canvas. So first of all, we're going to start off with Sebastian just because I feel like he's a little bit of one of the easier ones for myself to draw, but also I'm feeling a little rusty, so keeping myself a little bit into my comfort zone was going to be probably the easiest way to kind of ease myself into first drawing again, and then second is to draw the other characters in Stardew Valley. So if you're unfamiliar with Stardew Valley, it is basically a video game, and it's something that's like very much up my alley. It's kind of like you can make it slow paced, you can make it a little bit faster paced. I'm playing it on my Switch Lite kind of like before bed every night, so I've been playing it quite often. And I do like the fact that there's like fishing, there's mining, you can talk to your townspeople or villagers. I know some people might be interested in the romance aspect as well. There's like many things you can do, and I kind of went into the game very blind. I've watched like I think one Niji liver play it. I think it was Alira at the time. So I did get kind of like a glimpse into what the kind of like game style is, to see more also of like the art style and just like the pace of the game, and I really do like it. One thing that does drive me a little bit nuts, and I know why they did it, but it's the walking speed or the lack of running in the game. I know some people play it on the, what is it called? The PC, and there's mods and stuff that you can do, but I'm playing it on my Switch Lite, and I'm just like, I'm still getting used to the entire kind of like pacing of the game as well. But I think at this point I'm used to it, but at the very beginning when I went into it blind, I did struggle a bit getting used to basically the time ticking down throughout the whole day, because you only have a set amount of hours, and the set amount of hours will dictate your cycle of the day. So I highly recommend if you're looking for a game that's very much more slow paced, or something that you can, I guess, go at your own pace and has like multiple things to do, like mining or like fighting a little bit. Like there's a little bit of combat in there, as well as like growing crops and farming. There's ways you can, I believe, have animals. You can talk to villagers, have relationships with them. You can also there's like a few other things, but I myself don't know everything about Stardew. I'm still very new to it, and I've been kind of like going at my own pace by, finding a new thing. And if I'm interested, I will go ahead and like, research a little bit more into it, which is kind of what I did for the characters, or at least for some of them. So for the most part, I only wanted to draw, I don't know how to explain this. I drew characters that I was kind of familiar with in the game, that have been interacting with a little bit more, minus probably Maru. So I haven't interacted with Maru too much, but I do like her character quite a bit. She's kind of just like a sciencey kind of girl who's just very much into, I guess, like STEM for the most part. I believe she's like a part-time nurse for the doctor in the town as well. And she just seems like a great character. I really do like her, and I do like her design. And the reason why I want to talk a bit about her design is the fact that I've seen people do fan art of the Stardew Valley characters in the past, and I did a quick search before drawing Maru today because I wanted to make sure I was going to get her hair correct. And I don't believe there is a correct way to draw her, but I've seen people do just normal, straight, kind of like a longer bob type of haircut for her. I've seen people do kind of like tighter curls for her, like maybe closer to 4C hair, like kind of the tight curls. And then I've seen people do kind of more like something akin to box braids for her as well. So I'm kind of giving her a little bit more texture, and I'm not sure if this would be considered box braids in terms of how I drew it, but I'm going to keep it a little bit vague for now until we get to the coloring, where I can kind of mess around with the texture a little bit easier. Just because I didn't want to spend a lot of time either drawing in all of the hair or drawing in a lot of the curls. And you'll see me struggle with this for, I believe, I don't want to spoil who else I'm drawing today, even though you might have seen it on Instagram or like from anything I posted, kind of like a spoiler anywhere else. But the first one I drew was Sebastian, and he's kind of like I guess he does like coding, I believe, in his bedroom or whatever for work. And he seems a little bit more gloomy, if anything. So that's kind of like his character. You can read into it more. I'm not going to delve into like everyone's character or whatever, because I'm also slowly learning about them slowly. Then we have Maru, who's a very smart, intelligent girl. She's also seems very interested in science and all that jazz. Super cool. And then we have Harvey. So that is who I'm going to be drawing right now, and I actually have drawn Harvey before in my sketchbook very briefly in kind of preparations for today's video, because in terms of like the bachelors in the town, Harvey seems to be, at least like personality wise, more or less my type, just because he seems more of a sweet person, also more caring, a little bit more shy, and I tend to gravitate towards those kinds of people, just like in general as characters, not exactly in a romantic sense, but just like in general. So yeah, I was kind of drawn towards his character the more I read up about his character, and I've seen many people's like YouTube shorts about characters of Stardew Valley. Also, here's the sketch that I did in my sketchbook. He looks very more like baby-faced the way I drew it in my sketchbook, just because I gave him much more of a rounder, kind of more squat face compared to how I'm drawing him now. Alongside that, I do have a tendency to draw eyes a lot larger, so I do apologize if some of the characters look maybe younger than they're probably are in the actual game. So yeah, I feel like potentially I'm not gonna say for sure, but potentially if I had to marry a character in the game, I'd probably marry Harvey, potentially. I'm not too sure. Like I said, I haven't delved into the characters too much. There's like a bunch of other bachelors and there's bachelorettes you can marry, I believe, as either or of the characters. I'm not too sure if like the love interests are open for every gender, if that makes sense. Like if you start off as a female in the game, you can marry anybody, or if you start off as a male in the game, you can marry anybody, of like the bachelor and bachelorettes, of course. But I believe that might be the case. I'm not too sure. But there is another option, and I'll talk about that closer to the end, which I'm a little bit more gravitating towards. Just because in general, I don't play a lot of like romance games, if that makes sense. I think in my teenage years I played more like otome games and all that, and I loved reading like shoujo manga that had a lot more romance forward subjects, if that makes sense. But as I'm growing older, sometimes romance and stuff just doesn't pique my interest as much, unless it's like it is that lighthearted fluffiness, like Kimi ni Toroke, I believe that's what it's called. So the one with Sawako and Kazehaya, I believe. I do not remember their names anymore. I do apologize because I could be blanking super badly right now. But that was like my favorite manga for such a long time. And I believe it's getting a season 3 for the anime on Netflix. So I'm super excited. And like that kind of story is like the only kind of romance I really kind of be sticking towards for the most part right now, unless I want like angst or something. I don't know. I feel like I also go through phases in terms of what I'm interested in, and it's similar to like how I'm not really into action anymore, or like super high energy shonen. Haikyuu is like an exception but I also feel like I do like the sports genre a little bit more than just like general shonen fighting anime nowadays. Even though I do still like the genre for the most part, it just doesn't pique my interest as much. So I haven't been watching a lot of anime in general, unless it's more like slice of life or kind of like slower paced, because I feel like I'm at that point in my life or this phase of my life where I'm kind of preferring that kind of stuff right now, and it's including with like the games I'm choosing. Yeah. So back to the sketches before I get too derailed. I am drawing next up is Abigail. So I feel like Abigail is also a pretty popular choice for people just because she's a little bit more of the... Is she goth? I'm not sure if she's like considered like a goth girl or a gamer girl or whatever you prefer to call her. But she has like really cute purple hair. I believe in her sprite, like the little sprite in the game, she has like a little bow on her head, which I think looks super cute. But I'm basing these off of basically their portraits. So whenever you talk to them, they have a portrait on the side usually, and that's basically what I am basing them off of. Oh, the sketch for Abigail went super quickly, so I guess we're moving on. So the last one that I'm actually going to sketch that is of the kind of like townspeople, or the villagers, I guess, is Elliot. So Elliot... I feel like I'm drawing him for technically two reasons. I tend to not draw male characters that have a very prominent jawline, and I believe in one of the secret notes that you can get in Stardew, someone's writing about the older bachelors in the game, which is Harvey, which is the doctor. We have Elliot, which is this kind of like poet, romantic guy who has a house kind of on the beach. And then we have Shane as well. So I do think that in the future, if I have the confidence to, I do want to try drawing Shane alongside with maybe... I'm trying to think who else is there. Not Alex, Sam. So Sam, his hair confuses me so much, so I'm a little bit intimidated to draw him. But back onto the topic. In the secret note, so like I said, there's three kind of bachelors that are kind of on the older side. So one is Harvey, so we have the doctor. We have Shane, who works, I believe, at Joja Mart, but he's of the older age. And then we have Elliot, who's also older. But the person who wrote the note, I swear, if I'm remembering correctly, they said that, but he has a good chin, I think, or jawline or something. So I wanted to draw him with a bit of a stronger chin than I usually like to draw. I tend to give everybody that very Bishonen, sharper, kind of daintier kind of chin rather than giving them like a more cut, more thicker, wider jaw and chin. So I wanted to make sure I did that at least for Elliot. I don't remember how much I end up expanding it, but I'm gonna try my best to kind of give him more of a defined face when we actually start to color and do a little bit of rendering. So, But the second reason that I wanted to draw Elliot is that the fan art that I remember seeing a while back is that they draw him very pretty, like super pretty. And I think it's also because he's like, his style and his hair is very translatable to like Bishonen kind of look, because some people draw him in such a pretty way. It kind of reminds me of how some people draw Jonghan from 17 when he had his longer hair, and I really like kind of drawing people with longer hair sometimes. And Elliot was actually still very fun to draw, but it's a little bit challenging, and I hope I did the people here justice for the most part. Oh, by the way, I know I said I was gonna draw only 5 people. I'm sticking in Krobus, I believe his name is Krobus, as the kind of filler at the middle end portion, because I think just briefly met him in the game, but from what I've heard about him is that you can be roommates with this little guy, and I'm kind of more interested in roommating with this little shadowy figure guy rather than having a marriage or romance in the game at the moment. So I think for my first playthrough, I might just room with Krobus. So I think that's what I'm going to do. If anything, because I'm more or less interested in just making a lot of money in the game and going as deep as I can in the, is it Skull Cavern or whatever it's called? or like the deeper mines or whatever it's called. I'm kind of just more interested in that at the moment. But back to the art. So now that the sketches are kind of like complete, or you know, for the most part I'm just done with the lines, and I tried my best to keep them at least like somewhat clean. There are some scraggly lines here and there and some of my guidelines that still are present, but I decided that I will color these and potentially clean them up a little bit. So I am filling in these sketches with a kind of like mid-tone yellow for now, and I have set my sketch to multiply and made it a lot warmer. Now I've set the yellow, and I basically use the hue, saturation, and value slider to just make the entire thing a mid-tone gray, so that I can kind of alpha lock this kind of grayish color and then paint over top of it, just because it'll be easier for me to keep my colors all contained, and I won't have to kind of go back and forth and make a bunch of different layers for each and every one of them. So starting off, I'm going to be working basically backwards from how I was sketching them, if that makes sense. And the reason being is that I had the portraits of them on my phone, and it was easier for me to just hit the back arrow for me to look at the characters rather than me going forward again and just researching up the characters again via my phone. So I'm starting with Elliot, we'll move down to Abigail, Harvey, then Maru, and then we'll go back to Sebastian. And then when I'm rendering, I believe I start with Harvey, maybe? I think in general, I liked Harvey's drawing the most, so I'm probably going to spend the most time just rendering him anyways, but we'll get to that when we actually get there. So in terms of the coloring, because I'm not planning on fully rendering everything and making everything super sharp and super clean, because I'm going to still kind of treat these as more like colored sketches, I am not worrying about, I guess, like adding so much detail or correctly picking certain colors for shadow, thinking a lot about lighting and all that. So I'm keeping things a little bit more chunky, a little bit more messy, until I decide to fix things up or clean things up when we actually start to merge my layers and start to paint over everything. But for me, it's like when I do sketches like this and I do decide to color them, depending on my mood will probably dictate how long I spend on rendering the figure or like rendering the drawing in general. So sometimes I feel like I start off with a sketch, I color it, and then sometimes I actually finish the drawing, and you know, other times I end up only finishing one of the doodles or sketches more so than the rest of them, which might make it kind of weird because one's like fully rendered and then the rest are kind of just like blobs everywhere else. But just literally depends on my mood for the most part. So for coloring, I think it's pretty simple. I left a lot of the coloring process in for you guys to see, just because I know a lot of you guys like seeing me color. But for the rendering process, I did not keep a lot of it in, just because I feel like it's just a little bit more monotonous, and seeing it over and over for every character would probably not be beneficial as much. But as always, I'll leave a kind of time-lapse version at the very end if you're interested in seeing kind of like the quick process of everything coming together, if that interests you. So I'm trying to think what else before I went on the tangent. We talked about Krobus. Yeah, I think if you guys have played Stardew Valley, do let me know who's your favorite in the town, or if you have played several rounds, did you marry any of the characters or romance any of them or whatever you want to call them, or did you focus more on other aspects of the game? I just figured out that there's like a beach, not a beach. The thing, is it the beach? I don't know what you can consider it. You take the bus, I think, and you meet another, I think it's like a redhead lady. I haven't met her quite yet because I haven't went there. I've been ignoring the bus for the most part because I've been just fishing a whole lot and it's winter in my game at the moment. I feel like I've been progressing super slowly, but for my first run, I'm kind of wanting to treat it as like figure it out as I go rather than like completely spoiling myself like for everything, other than the fact that I keep getting recommended so many YouTube shorts of Stardew Valley, which is where I'm getting like weird tidbits of like information or what I've seen other people's farms and stuff look like, and I'm like, holy crap, like some people go like super into it. But yeah, I've been really enjoying the game like a heck of a lot. There is another game called, I think it's Moonstone Island. I'm gonna wait until it's released on potentially on Switch, and then I'm gonna play the game because it seems very much also up my alley, and I think it's very cute and it has like, I believe like card combat or something like that rather than normal combat, and you can kind of like collect companions and stuff. It just seems like a very cute game, and I love the aesthetic because I know there's a lot of similar games to Stardew Valley or other games that are very similar to Animal Crossing that are more like farming and kind of like island building kind of games. But for me, the art style, I have to love it if I'm going to commit to buying and playing the game. Because a worry that I have nowadays, and I've been talking to my brother about this because I feel like our hobbies are always shifting depending on our amount of time that we can delegate towards our hobbies, right? So my brother hasn't been gaming at all much lately, and I also haven't been gaming a lot. But I've been picking up my Switch more often. Either replaying some old games or trying to find new games that kind of spark my interest, because I want a game that I can pick up and leave off whenever. So I'm not really interested in playing a lot of like combat or story driven games at the moment. So if you guys have any other games like that are, I don't know, either sandboxy or a little bit more of like a farming-ish kind of simulator or a very slow-paced game, then do let me know. Another one that I wanted to play like a few years back, and this is like when the Switch Lite was released, I believe. I think it was like Doraemon Story of Seasons or something like that. I also wanted to play that, but I don't know. I also wish there was like a Golden Sun remake. I think Golden Sun might be the only one I would replay, I think. Or either that or like Phantom Hourglass or Spirit Tracks. I kind of wish there was more remakes. Oh, I guess like Super Mario RPG. I might play that one because I love Super Mario RPG and it's so cute. And the remake of it, it's super, super adorable. So I kind of want to get back into maybe those games. We'll see. Just let me know what you guys have been playing recently, because all I've been seeing people play is like, you know, mobile games, which is, I'm also contributing to that. And then people are playing more like, I don't know, whatever, I guess like shooters like Apex. Some people are playing Fortnite. I know a lot of people are playing Valo. So, you know, those kinds of games don't really interest me as much. I do definitely like playing solo games, and whatever I can bring around on my Switch Lite would be probably the easiest, just because I do play games like before I sleep now, which is probably bad. But Stardew Valley is so relaxing that I just play like an hour and a half or 2 hours or however long I stay up until, and then I feel like I can knock out super quickly. So it's kind of nice, and I kind of miss gaming every so often. Okay, so for the glasses for both Maru, and I don't believe I showed too much for Harvey's. So I made a new layers, and I used the brush to kind of block in where the lenses are for their glasses, and then I would use an eraser and kind of erase and make the white a lot more transparent, and then we can erase a lot more to do kind of like the little glare in the glasses to be a little bit more prominent. And then later on I will shift that layer to be above my colors and my sketch so that it can cover the exact portion of her actual eyes rather than just the color portion of the figure, if that makes sense. I'll do it to Harvey a little bit later because I definitely forgot to do that. Also, for Sebastian, which I totally forgot. So, I believe in Sebastian's room, or his setup, I think he has his keyboard on his lap, and he has a little red kind of stool rather than like a gaming chair like I drawn him here with. I kept the color the same, but I realized a little bit too late, and I didn't really want to erase it because I do like this angle and how I've drawn it, so I didn't really want to get rid of the chair. So I kind of just left it in. Also, for his coloring, because he's usually on his computer whenever he's in his room, I guess, I wanted to add in kind of like a little bit of reflective blue light coming from the screen. So because the screen is not shown in where I've drawn it, I'm going to kind of imply it by adding it to a little bit to the desk, to his sleeves, his hoodie, a little bit on his chin and his underneath his eyes, his cheekbone, and then the little bit of his bangs and hair, just to give an indication that he might be in front of his screen. So I don't remember if his eye color is just like black or it's brown. I just remember it being very dark, and I don't remember if like when he acts surprised or a little bit more flushed, if his eye color actually shows the correct eye color. Because I believe for Elliot and Harvey, their eyes look kind of dark until they have certain other emotions being shown that they're, I believe their portraits will show what actual color their eyes are, and I believe Harvey's is green and Elliot is also green. Then we have Abigail, which I think is kind of more of a turquoise color, and then we have Maru, who has like the nice kind of purpley kind of violet colored eyes, which I think are super pretty. Yeah, but here are the glasses for Harvey as well. I decided to do something similar to Maru's glasses, so made it white, erase it slowly. You can also do it, which I like to do in a two-step way. So you block in the entire glasses frame with white, then you can dim down the opacity to whatever you would like, and then I would make a new layer, do the streaks for the what is it called, the glare, and then erase it, and then you can have kind of two variations of intensities. But because I'm treating this as a sketch, I just did it on the same layer and just erased where I need. So for the actual sketch lines, as usual, I have alpha locked them, changed them to be a little bit warmer or to suit the lines a little bit closer to each area for the characters. And I did this in a very rough way because I'm not going to be fully rendering them. I don't really need to be too particular. Then after that, I merged my sketch with my colors. Now, before I even colored everything, I did make a duplicate of my sketch just in case I dislike these a lot. So yeah, then after I've kind of merged my lines with my colors, we're going ahead and doing a little bit of rendering, not a heck of a lot. I'm basically just going to be ending up with adding a little bit of darker lines here and there to help create a little bit more depth, also just to bring some things forward, just because I feel like some of my lines, because of the colors, sometimes do get a little bit lost. So yeah, I spent the most time on Harvey just because one, his portrait's kind of on the biggest size in terms of how I've drawn them. And then after that, I think I spent a lot of time on Maru's, and then Elliot, then Abigail, then probably Sebastian as the last one, because I apologize if your favorite is Sebastian. I did not spend a lot of time drawing him just because I don't know if it's because he's the first one I drawn, but the last few days I haven't been really drawing on my iPad too much, so I feel like a little bit, not rusty per se, but you need to get back into the swing of things after like you take a break. So I feel like that might have been my go at Sebastian, so I do apologize that his might look a little bit more rough compared to the rest. I definitely spent the most time on the other four compared to Sebastian's, and I spent the most time probably just on Harvey's in general because I don't draw I guess like older people, let alone people with facial hair, so I was a little bit intimidated to even draw Harvey, even though I feel like I might have given Harvey a bit more of a baby face if anything. But yeah, enough of my rambling. We are basically at the end. I'm doing a quick time-lapse replay for you guys. I don't know why my camera is shaking a heck of a lot. And yeah, I'll make sure to include the time-lapse at the very end as well with the kind of one that you get from Procreate so you can see it a lot more clearly with the accurate colors. But I think that's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed today's session, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye!